Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far. So today we're going to be ranking my Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadow palettes. I was asked about this on my Instagram when I posted a question, and I'm so sorry I've lost the question, so I can't remember whose idea it was, but thank you so much for popping this into my head, because when the question was asked, please do rank your Charlotte Tilbury palettes, I was like, haven't I already done that? I feel like I've already done that, but I actually have not. As far as I can tell, I can't find the video if I've done it. And I think the reason why is because I never really felt like I had enough palettes from Charlotte Tilbury to do a ranking video. But I feel like now, this past year, I've probably picked up like 3 or 4 more palettes from Charlotte Tilbury. So now I feel like we could do a decent video. So why wouldn't we? What's holding us back? I don't know. So I am going to rank big palettes and quads alike, because actually the results may surprise you. I feel like I'm able to compare them here, because I think, you know, Charlotte Tilbury's larger palettes, they have 12 pans, I think. So there's not a huge difference. What's 8 shadows between friends? And I do feel like I'm able to compare them. So that's what we're going to do, okay? So I have 7 palettes, quads and larger palettes from Charlotte Tilbury. So in 7th place, it's Bejeweled Eyes to Hypnotise. This was last year's holiday palette, I believe. Nothing wrong with this palette. I just want to say this video, this ranking just goes to show you how much I actually love Charlotte Tilbury's palettes, because I really like this palette. I won't say love, I'll say I really like it, and it's last, so it can only go up from here. How great is that? The thing about this palette, why it is no higher, is for me it's like it's neither here nor there. Do you know what I mean by that? It's not really a neutrals palette, but it also isn't really a colourful palette. I don't know what this palette does that kind of makes me want to reach for it over some others. It doesn't do neutrals as well as some of, even when we're looking at Charlotte Tilbury's own brand only, regardless of other brands. This isn't going to be the palette that I'd pick for like a neutral eye look, and this isn't going to be the palette that I'd pick for a peachy look, and this isn't going to be the palette that I'd pick if I'm feeling like I want to play with colour. It's just, it doesn't really do any of those things as well as some of the others. It's just kind of a bit of a mishy-mash of all of those things, but it's not really, it's like a jack of all trades, a master of none. That's what I'm going to say. Do you know that phrase? That's this palette. It's lovely. It does lots of things nicely, but I don't think it wins the contest. It doesn't win any prizes, you know? I don't know if any of this is going to make any sense to anyone but me. In 6th place, we have our first quad, and I'm just filling time while I try and open it. Pretend not to notice. It's Desert Haze. Now, this is a beautiful, let's give you a closer look, why not? Let's treat ourselves while we're here. So this is a great little quad. It's a very concise, does this one thing expertly. If you're looking for like a no makeup, a very understated, very natural look, this is going to smash it out the park. It's going to nail it. You've got a lovely warm toned crease shade. You've got a cooler toned smoke shade. You've got your lid skin tone shade. It is very, very good at doing that one thing, but that is all that it does. And I do find this deeper shade a little tricksy to work with. So also, as far as palettes go that do this same thing that Desert Haze does, I prefer Bieber, and I probably prefer the Mario palette. So it is the smallest, most concise, literally 4 shades. If you're wanting something for travel that does that, you cannot go wrong. It's a classic and it's very, very handy, but it isn't exciting, is it? Let's be honest. Now in 5th place, we have Pillow Talk. Now this is, when I was saying earlier about the Bejeweled Eyes to Hypnotise is like a master of no category, Pillow Talk is a master of this category. If you're looking for the Charlotte Tilbury effect, this is the palette you should go for. If you want the palette that's the most representative of Charlotte Tilbury's brand, I'd say it's this one all day. This screams bridal, soft glam, natural, pretty, soft, feminine colours, but actually a lot more versatile than you may think. this is your girl. These palettes are a pain because they're so mirrored that they don't like to play with cameras, but you get the idea. This is just heaven to me. It's so pretty and everything's so soft, but all of the shades in here I find quite deceptive. But I find that a lot of them are much more vibrant and punchy and richer than they look in the pan when you actually apply them to the eye. I think it's a joy and it's very, very beautiful. And this absolutely is one that I reach for when I'm wanting a romantic, softer, pretty, easygoing eye. The formulas in here are beautiful. It's got a lot of mattes, which I really appreciate, and a good few little pretty pops of shimmer as well. So yeah, this for me is one that I do use often. And in fourth place, the last larger palette, which you can see why I included quads here, because quite clearly the Charlotte Tilbury quads are where it's at, in my opinion. So the top larger palette for me is this Smoky Eyes Are Forever palette, the most recent one to my collection, which is why at the moment I'm the most excited by this one. Maybe that will wear off and Pillow Talk will bump it back down in time, but at the moment I love this one. It's got the green in there. I feel like lots of people sort of describe this palette as being like, oh, you know, it's got Rebel Eyes, and then this is Pillow Talk, and then this is last year's holiday palette, and this is the year before. So I get that bit. Also, people have compared these shimmers a lot to the ones that are in Fire Rose. So, I nearly said Divine Rose there. Did you catch that? Nearly got away with it. So I agree, but I don't think it's a bad thing unless you have all of those palettes. And obviously there's a lot of maybe similar shades in here to what you already have. But I think this is like a curated version. So instead of buying all those 5 palettes, here's this one palette. And in the same way that I kind of spoke about the Bejeweled Eyes, it's not like you wouldn't call it a neutrals palette. You wouldn't really call it a colourful palette, would you? It's kind of neither here nor there. But at the same time, because of the looks in this one, this has 4 very complete looks and then some for me that are very different to each other, which the Bejeweled Eyes just doesn't quite pull that off as well as I feel this palette does. And I think the formulas in here I prefer as well. I think the shimmers in here are just that bit more exciting, and the greens. I think Charlotte Tilbury's eyeshadow formula has really come a long way in the last year, and this palette kind of is testament to that. So I think the shimmers in here are just a bit more punchy and exciting. So it is, for me, as far as her larger palettes, it's the most exciting one, the one that I'm most excited to use, and that's why it's at the top as far as the larger palettes go. So now we have the top 3, and as you already may have guessed from my descriptions, these are all quads. I think the Charlotte Tilbury quads, they've just got me. They've got me right in the feels. I love them. I think they're excellent at doing these quads, Charlotte Tilbury. I think they put them together incredibly well so that they are a complete look that makes it very easy to know what to use, how to use them to get the look that you want. Are they sometimes a bit repetitive? Sure. But if you absolutely love these types of looks, I just don't think you can go wrong. And they're lovely and pocket sized. So in third place, it's the one I have on my eyes today. And it's Fire Rose. Oh, she's pretty. She's pretty, and I did have quite the battle as to whether this was going to go higher or not, but I just feel like this one, yeah, this is where it goes. I love all 3 of these palettes, but I feel like the other 2 are just more me. This is very kind of ready. This palette, obviously this matte, I use this very, very lightly, if at all. I tend to use this shade all over the lid and into the crease, and then these 2 together on my lid, and I barely use this shade, whereas the other 2 palettes I'm going to talk about, I use all of them all day long. I think that all of these quads give you an excellent one and done option, like 4 different one and done options for shadows, and I think this one does this look that I'm wearing today beautifully. But yeah, I think the other 2 maybe are just more my cup of tea. There's nothing better about the formula or anything like that. Color story wise, I think this is probably the most exciting one for most people, but I guess it's just less me because it's a bit too exciting. I've told you before, I'm very, 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 very boring person. Very, very basic I am. So The top two, you probably, if you know my collection, if you watch my videos, you probably know what the top two are already. They are Star Aura and the brand new Celestial Pearl. Which is 2 and which is 1? I hear you cry. A very tough decision, because if you watched my review of Celestial Pearl, you'll know already that these two palettes are very, very similar to each other, especially when on the eye, when you've done the look. Again, I'm killing time because I can't open it, but talk amongst yourselves. Here we are, she's in. So as you can probably see, they are very, very similar. I hear you. You probably don't need both. When you put them on the eye, if you watch my video, my comparison video, they are almost indistinguishable to tell which is which once you've finished your look. But for me, in second place, it is Star Aura. Now, I'll tell you for why. As I said, both of these palettes, very, very similar. They have no mattes. Neither of them have any mattes, right? Neither palette has any mattes in there. They're both like a palette of varying intensities of shimmer. So I feel like the Celestial Pearl has a more intense shimmer. It also has a duochrome, this shade up here, whereas I don't think there's any duochromes in here. No, I don't think so, is there? But yeah, again, so we have in both of these palettes, there are a sort of more satin shimmer, then there's a couple of like standard shimmers, and then there's one like pop shimmer. And the pop shimmer in Celestial Pearl is just a bit more poppy, if you know what I mean. I also love that this has that duochrome shade that's like a little green, a little antique gold. You can't really tell what it is, and it leans a little pinkier, whereas I think this palette leans a little more brown, maybe in certain lights. Do you see that? Pinkier, brownier, possibly. The big killer for me is that this one has slightly more shimmer, and the packaging. I know that packaging, you know, does not make a palette. Well, does it though? Does it though? Kind of does for me a little bit, a little. I will say. I do prefer this packaging. It feels heavier, it looks more luxe, it's prettier than this one. So that for me, when I'm trying to decide which tips me over the edge when they're so similar, it's the little things. A little bit more shimmer, a duochrome's a little more exciting, and the packaging's a little nicer to look at and feels nicer and weightier in the hand. And that just edges it for me. I think this one is currently my absolute fave. I would have said Star Aura has been like my favorite mini for a long time, my favorite little quad. I love it. So simple, but so effective, so beautiful. And Celestial Pearl is exactly the same beast, the same type of beast, the same animal in a slightly more aesthetically pleasing package. So there you have it. I'd love to know what your rankings are of Charlotte Tilbury, what your absolute favourite palette is out of your collection, any that you don't love so much. Would you have a different order to me, or is yours very, very similar? I'd love to know. Do you like the bigger palettes more than the quads? Am I the only weirdo? We'll have to find out in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'd love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye.